I'm Alex.
And I'm Teddy.
And we are
The Button Mappers.
Hey, the Button Mappers. Welcome to the Button Mapper Show, the only show on the internet that's 99% germ-free. It's like hand sanitizer.
Yes, everybody. We are the Button Mappers, and we encourage you to give us a subscribe. We always like the numbers, I guess, and also seeing that we got some fans. So if you like what we do, especially here today, hit that button, hit that playlist, check out these game talks, because we got games and we talk about them.
Oh, and don't forget to leave a question on this episode of Game Talk, because we do questions on Game Talk.
Hells yeah, we do. And we do respond to questions.
Yes, just like we are about to just now. This
was the stiffest intro ever.
It's good, though.
Is this what YouTubers do?
Hi, welcome to the Button Mappers. Click that subscribe bell for more content.
And plus like if you want to hear robot voice of rest of show.
All right, we should probably just get on with the questions.
I guess so. Welcome to Game Talk, everybody. We have questions.
We got how many questions today, Teddy?
Dude, today's a world record, or an almanac, or a button mapper record. One of them.
An almanac record. We're in the almanac.
We are the almanac mappers. We're going to map out all of the almanac awards, starting with the question award. The first one goes to the Itch Network.
Try this green tea.
Wait, hold on. What was the record?
2.
2?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we had more than 2 today.
No, the record was 2, but now we broke the record.
Oh no, yeah, no, I didn't hear what you said. We had how many do we have today?
Oh, I think we have 3. I know. It's exciting, right? And when I say we, I don't just mean Alex and I mean all of us. All of us button mappers together.
All the mappers. All the map-ats.
It takes a village to map a button.
Sure. Okay, questions. What are the questions?
First one, the Itch Network. What's the first game you played with voices? Were they good or bad? And why?
That's definitely a question.
It's a what question?
That's definitely a question.
Oh, it is. I thought you said it's an elite question.
What do you remember it being the first game you remember having voices prominently?
All of them. I grew up with the N64. So
yeah, that's a hard question.
Even though, they had voices, or even though they were old, they're on the N64, all of them had some kind of voice work, and they weren't all good, so that's why I kind of like the question. My first 2 games ever were Pokemon Snap and Zelda Ocarina of Time, and in Pokemon Snap, Professor Oak has 3 words. It's like, hey! Oh. Let's go, or I don't know, they're pretty bad. I remember the theme music, though, and it always kind of interrupted it. Dun 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 dun, and then in comes Oak. Hi! There might as well be a Banjo-Kazooie voice. Oh my gosh. Banjo-Kazooie voices or Banjo-Tooie voices? Those are some of the finest.
Yeah, they're just like... One of the first games I remember having voices was I had a copy of Street Fighter 2 on the Super Nintendo, and that one has the really muffled Hadouken, Sonic Boom, and stuff like that.
I think it's harder to think about the first game I played without voices.
That's hard to do. I mean, I played a lot of Super Nintendo and Genesis, and a lot of those don't have voices. Growing up. But yeah, I agree. It's a little fuzzy because I did also grow up with the PS1 and 64. So I remember the Star Fox 64s and the Crash Bandicoots, and how they had voices in them and stuff.
Spencer, what's yours?
Yeah, Spencer, what is yours? Video response, please.
In your next podcast.
Just kidding. Oh, well, you could do that.
Yes.
Just say it out of nowhere and have everybody else be like, what are you talking about? Don't give context.
Just drop it randomly next time he's featured or something.
All right. What's the next question?
Next thing he says is, "I'll see you on the mountain." That's in response to Ice Climber.
Is that a question?
No, it's an exclamation.
Oh, I want a question.
Okay, the next one. Alex's Sonic impression seems off. Don't you guys have some official Sonic sound bites you could use instead?
I disliked this question.
As in I like.
I gave it a good thumbs down.
And it got 2 thumbs up instead.
Don't you make fun of my Sonic impressions, Spencer?
I thought Kermit had some pretty good ones.
Well, whatever.
Didn't you guys know we had Jim Henson on the last?
We had Jim Henson.
We had Jim Henson on the last.
He rose from the grave.
Could you imagine? I'm Alex, and I'm Teddy, and I'm Kermit,
and I'm Jim Henson,
and welcome to.
And I'm Kermit, or whatever. I don't know how Kermit sounds.
That's a Cookie Monster.
Cookie.
Oh, I'm Kermit.
Oh, okay. Kermit's like, oh, Kermit. I don't know how to do it.
Oh, it's Piggy.
I can't do a Kermit. Kermit the Frog here. Something like that. Okay, next question.
BG Mashup. Unfortunately, I've not played either game, but now I'm interested. Have either of you guys tried Apple Arcade? If so, what are your thoughts on it? Thanks, guys. No, thank you.
So we actually had to look this up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't buy Apple devices.
I have an iPhone.
I don't.
What do you have?
I don't own Apple devices.
Do you own a flip phone?
A flip phone? I have an Android.
Oh. Well, it'd be a lot cooler if you did.
Well, you know they're like bringing back flip phones.
I had one for 10 years while people were still phasing in them Androids and iPhones.
No, dude. Well, I didn't have a flip phone, but I had one of those like the BlackBerry phones, like the flip out keyboard that slide out the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I had one of those for the longest time. I know we're kind of avoiding the question because, again, I don't know. I don't buy Apple products, and I don't know anything about this arcade thing. I had to look it up, and there's like a streaming service for $5 a month where it has like 100 games at launch or something.
I don't really know what it is, and I tried looking at the games, but this website has an annoying ad on it, so now I can't really see. And the only questions I see are, can I clip my phone to it or clip the thing? Is it worth it? What are the games like? Okay, there we are. It doesn't actually ask, is it worth it? I think we just asked that in the moment. We're going to have to see that for ourselves. This is from How to Geek. At the time of writing, we counted a total of 63 games, of which only 4 were truly exclusive to Apple Arcade.
Ooh.
Where Cards Fall from Snowman, Projection, First Light by Blowfish, The Enchanted World from Noodlecake, and Red Rain from Ninja Kiwi.
That all means nothing to me.
I don't understand. The service has enlisted the help of some big-name publishers like Konami, Sega, Capcom.
Konami! Fucking Konami! Sorry.
Yeah, Pachinko? Anyone?
Like that's the first one you put on there? Yo, we got Konami.
They put Konami over Sega and Capcom. Mm-hmm.
Fucking Konami.
And Annapurna Interactive.
I don't like this trend. I know there's been like a big fuss about the Google Stadia stuff that's been happening. And I don't go too far into that because we're not a gaming news channel. But I don't like the trend that we're leading into now. With this like, oh, just stream all the games to your device or whatever. Like I get that, yeah, it's a place for it and it's probably where the medium is going, but it's just not for me, you know.
Yeah, me neither. I don't buy games on my phone. And I wouldn't get a tablet to play games. You know, I have a Switch.
I mean, even on like PS4, you can stream games on PS Now, but I really don't want to.
Me neither.
So, thanks for that question, man.
Yeah, I mean, now we learned something.
Next question.
So this one comes from our guy Terry. Carry 309. 309 ways to say, gentlemen.
9 doors, 9 hours, 9 Terrys.
Wouldn't that be something? What video game character do you relate to the most, and why?
Ooh, this was a tough one.
Do you have an answer?
Yeah, I don't know. Do you have an answer?
I gotta make one up. I don't know.
I kind of have one, but it's like it's hard to relate to a video game character, because like, and one sense, like, yeah, I can relate to a lot of the characters that I play as because like they're written that way. But again, like, I'm like the one that comes to mind, like one of my favorite game characters is Travis Touchdown from No More Heroes. But even then, like, I relate to him on some level, like on the level that like he thinks he's cooler than he is, you know, like he's a nerd who thinks he's cooler than he is. And then on the other level, like, I can't relate to the fact that he's like ripping people in half, you know. So the relatability stops there, I guess, with the personality.
I see. See, that's the same thing with me. Is I can relate with Link. Well, it's not the same thing, but I can relate with Link in terms of like how I look because I have blonde hair, you know.
There you go.
And I was a kid once, and then I grew up into a man.
Into a man.
Into a button man. Button man. But I actually have an interesting comparison, I guess. That's not really answering the question, but still a nice take on it. Okay. I bought Pokemon Sword and Shield recently, and I was convinced that I wanted to join Team Sobble with the water starter. But they play this cute little animation with the first 3 starters, Scorbunny, Sobble, and Grookey. And it kind of shows off some personality to each of them. And Sobble was a little bitch. This thing was crying like in a puddle, and then like it needed the other Pokemon to cheer it up. And Scorbunny was just like, yeah, I'm a crack bunny, and just running around. And I didn't know. I wasn't into Scorbunny. No offense to people who like Scorbunny. But I went with Grookey. Grookey was really playful and jumping about as this little monkey swinging from the trees, and I was into it. So I relate with Grookey.
Grookey's the leaf type, right? The grass type, right? Well, that's what I would have chose anyway, because it always goes with grass type. But.
Team Green.
Team Green.
Moving on.
That was it. That was the joke. Well, thanks, guys.
Thanks for the questions. If you have answers to those questions, please put them down below, along with your questions for the next Game Talk.
Speaking of Game Talk, dude, it's Game Talk.
What? No way.
We gotta talk about some games today.
Hells yeah, we do.
What we got on the plate?
Well, this plate is exquisite and serving only the finest, because today we are talking about a very special game. Super.
Oh, sorry.
Not today. Super.
Columns.
No. Are you talking about super columns?
No. I could, though.
That's the sad truth. I'm talking about Super Metroid.
Dude, one of the motherfucking best games of all time.
I can't deny it.
I have it. I actually like right now on my wall above my computer, I have a canvas print of Super Metroid artwork. Isn't that neat?
It is indeed fancy and gives you style and etiquette points in Animal Crossing.
Tell me about Super Metroid.
It has button mapping.
Ooh.
That automatically gives it the button mapper approval. It has button mapping, so I respect it. I'll tell you about this game. I'll tell you about my history with not being able to play it.
Okay.
I was always fascinated by Super Metroid, part of it because of its legacy, part of it because of Smash Brothers, part of it because it was on the Super Nintendo, and I started with the Nintendo 64. You know, I tell people that all the time. And there was no real way to enjoy Super Metroid unless, you know, I ran an emulator, and I don't do that. I don't have the laptop for that, and I don't want to start emulating games. So another way to do it was to connect online with the Wii U, which I didn't have a Wii U for a while, and I know that the ambassador program on the 3DS allowed you to play, but I wasn't a 3DS ambassador. So I always wanted to play it, but I never got that opportunity. I got the Super Nintendo Mini. I started it, but part of the thing about those mini consoles is I have trouble concentrating on them. So when I got the Switch, I was kind of avoiding the online service for a while. But I got the year subscription. And one of the games on the SNES online service is Super Metroid, so I really sat down and played it. And I didn't use any cheats this time, Alex. I cleared it all on my own. I barely consulted a walkthrough, and that was a huge thing for this game. But for the first time, I was really able to sit down and enjoy Super Metroid in 2019. Some like maybe 20 years after the fact of being aware of its existence and its reputation.
Now, I know that you and I are both big fans of Metroid Prime, but have you ever really experienced a 2D Metroid? Like, what's your experience with the 2D side?
Well, I did play around with the emulator once when I had an Android.
Okay.
And so I played a little bit of Fusion, and it wasn't playing right, so you know how the phones are. So I dropped it. I played Zero Mission. I think that's the remake of the first one.
Yeah.
And I played the original Metroid on the 3DS Virtual Console, but I just never make it very far in those, the old ones, It's like a cryptic game, especially on the NES, you know how that thing is. But I did finish the one on the 3DS that was the spiritual successor to the 2D ones, and it's actually very similar to Super Metroid. I wouldn't mind talking about that someday.
Samus Returns?
Yeah.
That one's a remake of 2 on Game Boy.
It feels very similar to Super Metroid, though, I have to say.
Okay.
So that's my experience with 2D Metroid.
I'm a huge Metroid fan. Like, that's one of my favorite series. So I've played all of those games.
I remember I was listening back to our GameCube episode. It was the first Button Mapper episode we did. And I said something in there like, I like the 2D Metroids, but Metroid Prime is just like on another level. I have to reconsider that question again after having finished this one. Where do you stand on that subject?
I don't know. I think I'm probably still more into Prime because I think Prime is a little more immersive than 2D Metroid. Just on the fact that you have like full scale environments, but it's still the same basic concept. But I can't deny that Super Metroid is like one of like the best like well put together like Metroid style games of all time.
There's a reason that there's so many games that try to do what it does and don't succeed. I think the only one that is really comparable is Symphony of the Night.
Super Metroid has balls, dude. Like that game has like a good atmosphere. Like it can be like that, like damn right, like unsettling at points.
Describe the soundtrack to me.
That's it.
It's pretty much it. Like even the save room theme. Beep, boop, boop.
Yeah,
boop,
it's
boop, 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 boop. That is a game of beeps and boops.
Beep. One of beeps, one of boops. Yeah, I love the atmosphere and Metroid, and Super just like captures it. Like the original Metroid, I will always like be a big fan of the original because like it is cryptic, but I love that game. I think it has great atmosphere for an NES game, but like the amount that like what they're able to do with Super Metroid is like it's almost like incomparable,
I understand why the later games really try and throw back to it as much as they do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know Metroid Prime is very similar to Super Metroid in terms of content, despite turning it into 3D.
Yeah, and there's I feel like this is the game that really like set the tone for the entire Metroid franchise. Like the first one had like an eerie space theme, but it's still like when you started it was like and then the one on Game Boy is not really very good. But this is the one that really like sets that tone. It makes me think of like watching like a horror movie.
Although the Space Pirate theme is pretty cool when you first come in. I don't know if Space Pirate, but like the opening theme, it is kind of similar. The score is very similar. The effects, everything's like, it's a beautiful game. I think when you land on the planet, it's raining, and then you see the background. I think the only way to really describe this game is like it's a game that opens up to you as you go through it. Because the same environment is not going to mean the same thing to you, later in the game when you get the space jump boots or the morph ball or, a phase-on beam or, missiles. Whatever it is, as you go through and acquire those upgrades, it becomes so much more explorable and cognitively challenging.
Well, and nothing is more rewarding, honestly, than getting a new upgrade and hearing the and because it's just like your brain's just like bing, like, oh, I could do so much more now. I could go to all these new places now.
The game in general is just the pinnacle of rewarding. Like every aspect of discovery, when you figure out like how to overcome something. I've started this game several times and I've restarted it, and then like I'll get further the next time, and then eventually I'm able to play through the whole thing. Usually with this kind of a game, I feel like I need the walkthrough. I didn't, but there is one thing I will touch on later that was very tricky for me to pull off. But otherwise, the game is just a lot of like fun and very, very playable, I suppose.
I think Super Metroid's a work of art.
Yeah, and I think art can be flawed too in some ways and still be magnificent.
Oh yeah, definitely.
One of the things I really love is as you said, the atmosphere. There's some amazing encounters, First off, like just the elevator, going down the elevator into a new world. When you discover that new world, when you discover what's on the other side of a wall, when you walk into a room and suddenly it's a boss battle, or sometimes you can even sense that a boss battle's coming before you go to it. The bosses are huge. They might destroy a whole room. And the end of the game too, man, it's a narrative in and of itself.
Man, that first fight with Kraid is like one of my favorites because he's so big.
You fight like a mini version of him first, then there's like an eyeball on the door.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the heck? I can't take this eyeball out. You gotta fire a missile at it or something, super missile. Then you go into Kraid's room. He's coming out of the ground, and he just destroys an entire section of the wall. Every boss battle in the game is like something like that, where it just catches you off guard.
I mean, even the intro is like you're walking through like the like laboratory, right, and stuff, until you're running a Ridley. Like it's like even that's like pretty unsettling for a Nintendo game.
And it gets so much fun, especially combining everything you learn and applying it later on in the game. I would so play it again. It's the type of game that by the time you finish it, you're like, that's the only amount of time I spent on it. My playtime was like 6 hours, but I felt like I'd been playing it for 20.
I love Metroid in general, so just the fact that you experienced this game, Teddy, and that you have a newfound love for Super Metroid makes me happy.
Yeah. I do want to say, though, that wall jump is a
that's
pain
tricky.
in the ass.
That is hard.
That is a pain in the ass. The first time I watched those little minion things, like, what is it? Not replicating, but like, imitating the wall jump. I was like, I cannot figure this out. So I had to look something up about how do you wall jump, and it still didn't make sense.
Yeah, it's very unintuitive.
The screw attack is a little better later in the game, but it's still not perfect. But now, I can forgive it,
Having played Super Metroid, would you still prefer Prime over it?
Metroid Prime versus Super Metroid. Decisions. I'm so hard pressed to say because they both give such different but similar experiences. I don't know that I could put one over the other, rather.
Okay. I would still probably pick Prime. I think I'm a big Prime fan.
I think I just like the music more in Prime. But there's also so much I haven't explored in either game. You know, Prime has the artifacts. Super Metroid has missile upgrades everywhere.
Prime has the addition of scanning, which is like one of the neatest gameplay features because it's like instead of having to like stop and read text, you can it's optional and you can just scan everything and learn about everything.
That's true. Even creatures, Chozo, and it's dark in its own cool way. The one thing I think I would give to Super Metroid is the map. I think that thing is a beautifully woven tapestry that deserves a map out, if at all possible.
A map out. One day. One day. We'll map it away.
You can make a song out of that.
Come map away. Come map away. Come
map
away with me.
Alex and Teddy.
Oh. Without Teddy and Alex.
With Metroid.
With
Dude,
Metroid.
the Metroids. What was your reaction first time you saw a Metroid?
Ah!
I laughed.
The first time I ever saw Metroid, though, was in the original, and it's just like, it was coming for me. And that game's already hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, ah!
They actually felt a little underpowered in this version, I have to say.
Yeah.
Maybe Samus is just too OP in Super Metroid.
Oh, man. What a classic. What a classic game.
So good.
Kind of don't even want to talk about my game now.
I know.
Super Metroid.
Some might even call it unknown or untitled.
I got to get to
comparison.
my game. So I couldn't find a good game to pair up with Super Metroid once you were told me you were doing Super Metroid.
You?
I tried to play Super Castlevania 4. I'm not crazy about that one. It's good, but I wasn't like into it when I was playing it. I tried like a few other games. Like I was like, oh, I'll see what's on the service. And I tried like Demon's Crest and stuff, and I don't know, nothing was clicking with me. So I'm not doing anything that really lines up with Super Metroid. I'm played a game called Untitled Goose Game.
Wait, so it's actually called Untitled?
Yes, it's called Untitled Goose Game. That's the name of the game.
That's like every time you go to save a file, or like you open up a new Google Doc, and then there's no name.
Yeah, it's called Untitled Goose Game, and it's by developer House. This game, I bought it because I'm a fan of stupid stuff like Goat Simulator and those kind of games that are just kind of made to mess around with. But what I found was actually more than what I expected. So all the trailers for this game leading up to its release, which was like recent, actually, was like you just play as a goose and you just annoy people. And I was like, oh, that sounds fun, like just running around as a goose and doing weird stuff. But the game is actually a little more complex than I thought. It's more of a puzzle game. So what it'll do, it'll drop you into like an area. Take for example, the first area is a garden, and there's a gardener there, and it'll give you a list of things to do, like take his rake and put it into the lake, get these items for a picnic, get the gardener wet, make him hammer his own thumb, and the way that you do this is more about like watching how the people interact with the environment and kind of like using that against them. So you have to like take something of the gardener's, put it somewhere, and then like kind of like knowing its patterns and stuff. Another example was like there's one area that has like two neighbors living side by side, and there's a fence between them, and you can kind of like get between the fence, but they don't really interact much. But sometimes you have to like take one thing from one neighbor and take it to another person's yard to get them to do something, and vice versa. Like it's really interesting.
Is it adventure based or mission based?
I would say it's mission based because each little map you get set into gives you like a list of things you need to accomplish in order to move on to the next area. But I would say it's very much more of a puzzle game.
Did you name your goose?
No.
You didn't give it a title?
He's untitled.
You know it's a he?
Yes, it's a funny game. I like the fact that it's a quiet game, kind of like Metroid. It's very quiet, but anytime any kind of like sort of action happens, like all the music is like really like fancy piano music. It's really funny. Yeah, it's different and it's funny. Like I love there was one where like there's this kid playing with like a like little like airplane on this bench, and then there's a lady having like a yard sale next door. And one of the items, one of the things you had to do was like get somebody to buy back their own item. So I had to every time I walked into the store, the lady would like shoo me away with a broom. So I had to sneak into the store with the airplane and leave it there for her to find. She puts it back onto the shelf. The kid's like, "Where the heck is my airplane?" He goes over there, and then like the lady's like, "You need to pay for that. That's you're stealing this airplane." He's like, "It's my airplane." So it's like it's very funny. The whole objective is just to mess with people, but it's a very clever game.
Maybe thinking back to Spencer's question, is there a character you can relate with? Or no, those terriers.
The goose.
Can you relate with the goose?
Honk. I mean, any game that has a button just to honk, like it's okay
it's
by
me. Win in Alex's book.
I don't know if
Doesn't Mario Kart have the honk button?
Do you have any questions about Goose Game? Untitled Goose Game.
Why? Why should I care?
I don't know, man. It's very much a game sold on its humor.
You
know,
it looks like, pretty.
Yeah, it does look really good. I don't think it's a game that I would play all the way through, like more than once at a time. You know, like I wouldn't go back right after and be like, I need to play this again, because it's a very straightforward game, but it's very entertaining. I'd say it was $20 on the eShop. I'd say it's worth it. Is it worth it? Yeah,
it's worth it. Can you make columns out of it? Can you knock over the columns?
I feel like really small compared to your Super Metroid, though, because we had so much to say about that one.
I have nothing to say about Untitled Goose. I wish I had more to say about it, but I've seen the trailers, the internet humor about it. It's called Game, which I guess is fair for game talk.
Well, sometimes we just talk about what we've been playing, and that's what I've been playing. Just like with your, I forget what it was, Slain. Remember, you didn't like Slain too much. I liked Goose Game, but sometimes you just got to bring to the table what you got.
No, for sure. I mean, it would be cool as long as it's not just like poking a jar of mayonnaise. Then you're good.
I want that game. Yeah.
Slap that mayo.
I remember the first time you like mentioned something about that game. I was like, "What the hell?"
If there's a way to combine Untitled Goose Game and Slap a Mayo.
I think it's just like Untitled Goose Game and Super Metroid. I just want a goose with like Samus armor now.
Well, that reminds me of Gunman Clive 2, I think, or 1. When you finish the game, you get to play as the goose.
Oh yeah, those games are cool. Short,
fun,
cool.
Gunman
Have you guys played Untitled Goose Game?
Gooseman Clive.
Gooseman Clive.
Super Goosemoid.
Maybe since my game was so short at this time, maybe I'll ask you a question, Teddy.
Yay.
Are you ready?
I was always ready.
Since the year is winding down, what do you think is like the most impactful game you played this year?
Huh. Well, I haven't replayed Ocarina of Time yet, so.
Okay, new experience this year. Not games you've replayed this year. Something you sat down and played this year for the first time.
Odyssey, man. Odyssey was beautiful. I loved playing Super Mario Odyssey. I don't know. It just was very nostalgic. It threw me back. It got me to buy into the Switch. Great time. If I had to pick something else, I don't know. Pikmin was all right, I guess. Even before that, maybe there were a couple games like on the Saturn. I liked Knights. And I don't know. It's been a weird year for me as far as the gaming, but I definitely like going back to the GameCube. That was fun, especially after our conversation. I think just recording our first video on the GameCube made me really nostalgic. And I even mentioned it earlier in this episode when we were talking about the Metroid Prime. Guys, if you're listening, I suggest you check it out. We could put like a little card in the video so you can go watch our GameCube retrospective. But that was technically recorded pre-button mappers.
Yeah, that was a Turbo Zone video that kind of like inspired the creation of the like we wanted to do a podcast. We didn't know what we wanted to do, but like just doing that video alone kind of like sparked what would become button mappers.
Totally. We didn't even know we weren't going to put video footage on. We're like, you know what? We'll just slap an image of a GameCube on and then call it a video.
Teddy, I have some sad news, man. This is the last Game Talk of 2019.
True, but the new year brings with it many a game to Game Talk on.
You got a New Year's resolution?
New Year's resolutions. I usually do this on my YouTube channel, like what I want to do for the next year.
Yeah, you do.
I think as far as gaming goes, I'm still trying to hit that 50%. I'm pretty close. I'm at like 55% unplayed. So 45% of my games are beaten, which is pretty astounding. I want to downsize. I really want to get rid of a lot of these games. And it's hard to sell them.
What were you at the beginning of the year?
As far as the number of games?
Yeah, the percentage.
At one point I was around like 75%, I think, when I first started logging my collection.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty big jump for a year.
I don't think that was within a year. I think at the beginning of the year I was probably around 70.
Okay.
So, but it's still hefty.
Yeah. It's still a good jump.
Mm-hmm. And I just, I'm still trying to sit down and play more RPGs. Eventually I want the collection focused. I want to take like a sabbatical and just play like Dragon Quest for a year. I think that would be awesome. How about you? Well, first, what was your most impactful game of 2019?
Ooh, that's tough because I bought a Switch early this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been playing a lot of games. And I also played a lot of PS4 games towards the beginning of the year. Not so much after I got my Switch because I really focused on my Switch, but I did play a lot of games at the beginning of the year. But what is my most impactful game I played this year? That's tough. Odyssey is definitely one in the books, just like you, Odyssey. I would say Breath of the Wild, but I technically didn't play it the first time this year. I played it on my Wii U, and then I got the Switch version later. So I can't really count that one. I'm going to have to say Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, honestly. Mm-hmm. I'm still playing that game. Like, it's been out for months, and I'm still playing it. And I don't know if I'm going to stop playing it. And it's just, they keep adding content, and as a longtime Crash fan, it's been like a dream come true. And I'm eating it up just in case something like this never happens again, and I never have this Crash experience again,
I have to say, Star Fox did quite a bit for me as well. I went on a real Star Fox binge over the summer. That's
you did.
Like a strong contender for me, and I don't think Assault really did it, or 64, but the Super Nintendo one, I'd always been nostalgic about it, even though I think a lot of the games I played on the Super Nintendo this year were better. I think Zelda was better. I think Super Metroid is better. Star Fox is still just very nostalgic for me, so I gotta give some points out for that.
I mentioned No More Heroes earlier with Terry's question, right? With relatability. And I have to say, Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes, that was one that I also picked up like as I got my Switch, and like that's one of the few games this year that I beat and I immediately restarted. Because I'm just such a big fan of Suda51 and his games. So that was one that's definitely going to stick with me, and I love that game too.
How about Atari stuff?
I've been doing a lot of Atari collecting. I forget what I'm at over 100 2600 titles, and I have a handful of 78. I haven't really collected too much 7800 games yet. But I've been playing, like, I've been loving the homebrew games. I've been loving finding the really strange games that just like I've never heard of. Games like Pingo and Star Gunner and stuff like that. It's just like you never heard, like never hear these games. You know, it's just stuff you find out in the wild. And you're like, whoa, what is this? That's an awesome experience for me. And that's like, as a collecting goal, it's been my Atari and my Switch. Those are my two right now, and it's been that way for the most of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're both classic consoles. Do you have any other non-collecting goals?
What's a non-collecting goal?
Gaming goals.
Gaming
goals. YouTubing.
Oh, I definitely want to start creating videos again next year. It's one of my goals is to start back with TurboZone and Frickin' Frack, and it's been a rough like year to work on those two for me. So I'm hoping to get back into the groove of it. Taking the time off, I think is good. You know, taking time off from anything is good. You know, especially when you feel burned out. In terms of gaming goals, I'm kind of with you. I kind of do want to play more RPGs. I know there's a bunch of them that came to Switch, like The Witcher, Ni no Kuni, and whatever. Like a few other games. I actually almost bought a copy of Persona 5 the other day, but I'm like, I don't have time to play it right now. So I'm like, it'll just sit on my shelf for right now. You know, so I'm like, what's the point of buying it today? So, yeah. But I do want to jump back into some RPGs because I haven't really I played Kingdom Hearts 3 this year and stuff, but I haven't really sat down and played a full RPG in a minute. So, and with the Switch being awesome, you know, maybe it's my chance.
It's a great opportunity. Yeah. Download that Dragon Quest demo.
Yeah. Oh, I did play that demo. Yeah. I do need to get that full game. I'm just trying to wait for it to drop in price.
You know, I debated between Pokemon and that. You know, if you have a 3DS and a Switch, you can play Dragon Quests 1 through 9 and 11.
Wow. What's 10 for?
That's a Japanese exclusive and online only.
Don't you hate that shit? Don't you hate that shit?
It's stupid.
It's like Final Fantasy. It's like Final Fantasy fucking 11 and 14 are MMOs. And
it just
you can't
totally
even play.
Breaks the whole numerical system.
You can't even play 11 anymore. And I have a copy of 14, but I don't want to play an MMO. Like, I like Final Fantasy. I'm a pretty big fan. Like that was one of my big things back in 2017 was I got really into Final Fantasy for a little bit. And 12 was my favorite. And I played a bunch of the games, but I don't want to play an MMO, you know. So
it's like having the Chronicles of Narnia and missing book 6.
Yeah, it's like I hate the fact that they made that a numbered game. They could have called it Final Fantasy Online or Final Fantasy the whatever Fantasy Adventures or whatever. I don't know. They got to call it something else. They had to call it 14. That pisses me off. That
series has always had some naming problems though.
Yeah, my sister was confused because she was asking me because she has a PS4 but she doesn't have any games. Actually no, she has one. I bought her a copy of Tomb Raider, but she usually just plays my games. And she was she beat The Last of Us for the 100th time or something. And she was like, "Do you have another game you'd recommend that's really good story based game?" And I was like, "Here's Final Fantasy 15." And she was like, "15? I don't know what's going on." And I was like, "No, listen."
So. They are severely missing out by not putting those first 6 games on anything modern.
Oh yeah.
How do I play them? I don't know.
What Final Fantasy?
1 through 6.
PSP. I know 1 through. I think 1 through 5 is on PSP. I don't think 6 is it? Anyway, I know I have
PSP.
Yeah, PSP is I think the most modern iteration that they've put them on, unless you're talking the virtual console, possibly. You know. Back on the Wii, but I think the PSP had because I have 1 and 2 on PSP and it's newer versions.
Yeah, that's old though, man.
Yeah, I know.
Really gonna go buy a PSP?
Can't they just release a Final Fantasy collection or something? Or
now that Square Enix is putting the Dragon Quest on the Switch, I mean,
yeah,
why not?
Yeah, come on. Give us more Dragon Quest and more whatever. Don't give us another Kingdom Hearts collection.
Bunch of squeenies.
Man, I love Game Talk, and it's sad that this is the last one of 2019, but it's exciting because we're going into 2020, brand new decade, and the Button Mappers is starting off strong.
Hells yeah, and we're closing the year strong too. Guys, this has been quite a year for Button Mappers. I'm always so flattered, flattered by Alex and his charming self and
Thanks.
Illustrious voice. But that's it for us. Let us know. Did you enjoy the Game Talk? Which one was your favorite this year?
It was
and,
definitely.
as always, drop them questions.
Was it the one where I did all the Shadow the Hedgehog impressions? Because it was mine.
Is it the one where Spencer was there and gave us the sound bites for every Sonic video from now on?
No.
It's not Alex's.
Anyway, thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you to the mappers
Thanks.
and the map heads.
I appreciate you.
Yes, the appreciation is strong with this Game Talk.
Bye.
Cheers. See you in the new year.
Bye.
Bye-bye.